let me maybe make a short introduction, a quick one about myself. So Erez is not that common name in Israel, but I guess there are a few of us over here. Basically, my background is quite diverse. I was a restaurant owner and manager. I was even relocated to New York to open a restaurant a few, like 20 years ago. I studied psychology and industrial design, and somehow I find myself getting into high tech and building about 5 different companies, high tech companies, in a very different field. I didn't know anything about it. I just find myself doing that and building a different future for myself after this whole restaurant chapter of my life. So as you probably can guess, 4 out of those 5 companies failed quite quickly. The 5th one became a nice company, a few dozen employees. Then I was called up to help a friend of mine who was a founder of a mobile payment app about 6 years ago in the fintech world. So this company was acquired after 2 years only by a very large Brazilian company. And I find myself knowing quite a lot of people by then and knowing all kinds of methodologies. I also helped like 20, 30 different other acceleration programs for young kids, for mature startup that raise their B round. So many of those. In Israel, in Austria, in Germany, in Cyprus, in Spain. So I find all of those puzzle pieces coming together in my life. And what I do over the past 5 years and today is basically 2 things. On one hand, I'm a micro entrepreneurship type of founder. So I really love side projects. All I do is side projects. I really am in love with this short-term initiatives that you can just like brainstorm, act, materialize, have some fun, help people, bring some value, and move on. I'm totally in this one. And the other 50% of my week goes to providing entrepreneur on-demand services. So I help organizations, corporate, homeland security corporate, academics, you name it, with their entrepreneurial projects. So I'm like hired to be the entrepreneur for a short-term project. And this fuels my curiosity, and I meet so many cool people, and I can combine all kinds of different worlds. I mean, I help people that building the next generation of a fighter pilot headset with their stuff, and I'm helping 8 years old pupils to build their first product. So to me, it's so interesting, it's nice and fun. And this is basically what I do. I give a lot of workshops about stuff I love. And basically, I'm a free spirit, I guess, in a way. So that's in a nutshell. I mean, I'm not a typical Israeli founder or venture. I'm not a venture capital for sure. I'm a guerrilla fighter. This is what I love to do the most. So in a nutshell.
Perfect. So such an interesting journey.
Yes, it is.
Meandering is, I don't know if meandering is a polite word or a bad word. I feel like it's a good thing because meandering basically just means that you've seen a lot of curves, a lot of edges, and a lot of directions or straights in different directions. Nice.
Let me just also say, because I always do that when I talk to people that are not Israelis, feel free to ask anything you want, to cut me, and I don't see it rude. I just see it as a discussion, a fruitful discussion that you can take to your own, use it. I mean, basically, if you will stop.
Polite, right? Because you're used to this. So if you feel like it's if you finish your plate in China, it means the chef hasn't cooked enough. So if we don't interrupt you, it means that you're not interesting enough for us. So please interrupt as many times as possible.
Yeah, feel free to do that. And of course, I mean, every question is not a problem. I mean, the harder question, that not very polite type of questions, shoot at me. That's totally fine. This is what we do over here. So these are like the ground rules, basically, when I work with mostly European partners, but not only, I mean, American as well. So just feel free to do that. And now the mic is yours. I mean, do whatever you want with me.
So you offered an introduction to the ecosystem, to the Israeli ecosystem of startups, the startup nation. Saul Singer, I met him several times in my life. Always an inspiration, a wonderful, calm, and nice man. It is to me. I don't know if everyone has the same observation meeting him. He's the author of the book. I feel like that coined an identity for a whole nation, and Israel is the startup nation of Europe for a good reason. Tell us about it.
It's a very interesting case. I mean, the Paul Singer book is an amazing one. It's a very thick, interesting argument about what's going on here and why. So it's a very good starting point to know what's happening in Israel, because Tel Aviv is considered the best city to go start up outside the US for like quite a lot of years, at least 7 or 8 years. Now, there are all kind of different indexes and how to rank that. So I guess some ranks will not number 2 after the US. That's totally fine. It doesn't really matter. What matters over here is that every place is unique and different. And every culture is different and works by a different set of rules. And well, we are in Israel, and this is a very tough neighborhood, geographically speaking. And the whole theme of this place and the ethos and the partly survival mode of this location over here force us to be very creative about what we do as a state in the macro level, and about how we operate as entrepreneurs on the micro level. And I think there's a lot of similarities between the macro and the micro level. So it's quite interesting. Basically, if you look like in a bird's eye view, Israel wasn't existing like 70 years ago. There was nothing here. About 100 years ago, when you guys stayed in Vienna or London, places that are so amazing. So 100 years ago, Tel Aviv was only sands. There was no city. There was nothing. There was not even one building. So it grew quite rapidly. And the fact that Israel was established, and I'm not talking politics, but it was established about 70 years ago. And we had about every 7, 8, 10 years, there was a big war over here, like a very big war, missiles flying all over the place. And every 10 years, once in 10 years, since 1948, the day after Israel was established. So we had to survive economically and business-wise and culture-wise while struggling quite hard to exist. And if you add the fact that there are no natural resources around here, there was no water, there's no gas, there's no oil, there's nothing, then we somehow had to find this unique value proposition of Israel and sell it to other countries, and they are not bordering with us because the borders is with enemy states. So we had to come up with something that we can actually sell and exist. And because of all those wars and stuff like that, we had to develop very unique technology in order to handle those threats, in order to handle very interesting missiles types that flying all over Israel. And we had to somehow grow tomatoes in the deserts in order to have food. And we had to do all kind of water technology in order to have some water. And this is something that you somehow find a way to export, and then you become bigger and bigger. But it's 2020, and because of the culture difference between Israel and European and American countries, and because all kind of other reasons is actually, so we're not good at building big companies over here. I mean, with all this fast and startup nation, we're not good at building scale-ups and huge companies. There's so much difference with the language and the lingo and the terminology and the culture. We just have to build something that someone else will take and make a big company. This is why we're so good at exits. I think there's about $8 billion exits a year of Israeli startups on technology. This is crazy. But we're not good at building companies. I mean, just go that, buy the company, make it amazing. I'm going back to square one and start a different startup. This is the national sport over here. So this is something very, very unique, I guess, that happens over here. We're good at like having all kinds of pitches and somebody else just do something with it. But it also helps when you build an ecosystem. And this is what I meet so many delegations from other countries. And some of them, for sure in the political levels, want to copy and try to have the same like in Israel, but on their homeland. And this is just impossible because there are so many differences, especially the cultural one. And I think that one of the things that are interestingly happen over here is that the ecosystem, the tech and the innovation ecosystem over here is very intensive and very big and has a lot of players that if you don't have those players, you cannot build an ecosystem at your homeland. So if you're an entrepreneur that build and sold the company, then you're coming back as more experienced one. You go to Silicon Valley, you come back, now you're more experienced, you mentor the second generation. Companies buy Israeli startups, then they have this R&D center over here to scout for more technology. So you have multinational companies. We have about 350 multinational companies in this very small, tiny place in the Middle East. So you have all kinds of players over here that this is a circle that fuels itself. And every time I look at other company, another, location that tries to build an ecosystem, they somehow need to have all of those players, the acceleration program, the academy, the free spirits, the underground, the multinationals, the investors, the early stage investors, etc., etc.
When I was in Tel Aviv with the tour a year ago, we heard a lot about 8200s. And I'm curious if that still plays a role. Maybe you can explain a little where it comes from and how important 8200 is today.
Well, 8200 is interesting because, first of all, it's a good brand. I will explain. 8200 is a unit in the Israeli intelligence corps that actually is the most advanced technology corps in the intelligence unit. That means that these guys over there, and Israel is mandatory to join the army from the age of 18 until 21. It's mandatory. Now, not everybody are combat fighters. And if you are a fighter, then just imagine that you are 18 years old and you need to lead troops to battle and to make a life and death decisions when you're only 18. So they teach you how to be a good leader and how to work as a team and as a leader at once, and how to make decisions. So it's very good for your business life as well. But 8200, just imagine that you are coding with the latest gadgets for at least 3 years, 15 hours a day, building stuff nobody else builds. So 8200 is this unit, and therefore they have a very good brand, and they know how to market themselves quite nicely. And after you get discharged from the army, then you still have your know-how, right? I mean, nobody can erase your brain. So they use the same type of thinking, the same methodologies to build not only cyber startups, but every other startup.
Wasn't it when they started that no one was allowed to talk about it? So it was kind of something that existed, but no one spoke about the existence, so no one really knew?
Well, time had changed. I guess in every country over here, you have those divisions in the army as well. And in the 1980s, I guess nobody talked about it in the 90s, but in 2020, it's very hard to keep secrets. So this is the army, the unit, and many people, developers, the army struggles to keep them in the army service because it's so tempting to move to the civilian market and earn lots of dollars. Sorry for my language. But these guys are really good at what they do. But they are developers, and developers is awesome, but developing is just one part of startup. I mean, it's in Israel at least, it's a lot about the market because we're not living in the market. Israel is not even a beta test. It's not a beta site. It's nothing. It's such a small country. So you need to think on day one, and this is the message I deliver to so many student entrepreneurs outside Israel, mostly in conservative Europe countries. We need to think global on day one. Must think global on day one. And I meet so many entrepreneurs that have the DACH area with 90 million people market, which is, okay, that's nice. We're going to build the website for them. They're going to use it. But what's going to happen the day after? You are building a product that is built and tailor-made to a niche market when you consider the whole world. So the websites are in German. There's no English website in many, many cases for early stage companies. And we in Israel, with our broken English, as you hear, we don't know how to use in, on, or at the centers in the right grammar, still have to build websites on English and pitch in English and learn that this is the language we need to go for if you want to do something in the world, if you want to make a change. So it's a huge difference between so many cultures.
You are the author or co-author of Startup Guidebook.
Yeah.
What do I read there? What's the startup guide?
Actually, I have Vienna over here also. No, I have Paris and I have Tel Aviv, and Vienna is in the other room, and Copenhagen as well, and London. I have all. So basically, this is not a competitor of Startup Nation because this is not a personality. I'm not Paul Singer, but I know the ecosystem quite well, and I think there's a value to show the sexy side of Tel Aviv in a way. So it's more of a coffee table book. A lot of photos, a lot of founders, a lot of stuff like that. I'm not promoting it by because I don't care if you buy it or not. Just I think it's a nice way that you can. It's called the handbook for entrepreneurs.
What surprises people the most when they browse through the book?
I think first of all, you have some tips from very interesting founders, investors, and all kinds of very interesting people. So as an entrepreneur, you have something that you can actually relate to, and this is very like nuggets. It's very short, very quickly. It's not like 25 pages for each. So there's a value for that. The second value is about showcasing the ecosystem in a way. What are the best acceleration programs? What are the best co-working spaces? What founders has to say, and et cetera, et cetera. So it also has this coolness factor about some photos and some real people over there. There's also always photos of people. So it's like in the 90s, you can call it Startup Nation in the jeans, okay? It's more easygoing and stuff like that. It's not a replacement of Startup Nation. And I'm glad it's being sold quite nicely, but I mean, it's nice, but I did this because it's so much fun. And I think it has value for a very specific target audience, target customers, especially people trying to understand what's happening in Tel Aviv in 2017 and not why Israel became a startup nation.
We have a startup founder and we have a godfather of a startup community in the whole state in Austria in the room. Martin and Peter, I would like to have yourself unmuted and hijack the conversation for a little. What would be what would you like to talk about with Erez? Martin, you want to begin? Or Peter, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Well, I've only been in Israel once. I was in Tel Aviv just before Christmas, attending a sports tech conference I got invited to. I mean, one of the things as a startup founder is to find smart people. And I think in Israel, when it comes to like data science and stuff like that, like sophisticated systems, there's a lot of interesting people that would be really interesting to be connected to figure out how to work together. So that's I really love Tel Aviv. Again, I've only been there once, but I think it was an awesome experience and awesome people I met there from the sports tech scene in Israel. A lot of clever solutions.
Have you
So
met Oren?
that's
Yeah.
yeah, I've met Oren. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, it was his event.
Yeah, Colosseum. What
Yeah,
was the
in
most
Colosseum. Yeah. What? Sorry.
what's the most bad thing you can say about Tel Aviv? I have a few, but
The
what
best
was
thing of Tel Aviv. Um, I mean, I think there's a lot of things. The thing is, when you visit a place the first time, it's kind of like the tourist edition. But I really like that it's very diverse, and I like the beach. I
Mhm.
think that's really nice. I'm into. I mean, my startup is about playing and training, and I think there was a lot of interesting things going on in the public space in Tel Aviv when it comes to training.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was my impression. But I really like the combination of something that are really high tech and something that are really old. It's an
Mhm.
interesting mix that you,
Yeah.
yeah, really interesting mix.
Well, every time I go to like Vienna or places like that, I think I'm a little bit ashamed of Tel Aviv because Tel Aviv is the business capital of Israel by far, and the difference between the high-tech sector and what you see on street level is very big. There's a
Yeah,
lot of things that are not that nice and for sure not clean like in Vienna. And there's huge technology in algorithms and exporting, like 55% of Israel export is technology. And yet you need to pay with cash with many places, etc., etc. So it's such a difference. And in the eyes of the people coming here is like, seriously, this is here? This is the place that you're talking about? And I'm like, well, yeah,
yeah.
in a way.
That was actually one of the things I also recognized. It's not that many places where you only can pay with cash. I mean, there was places where you could pay with your credit card, but I went to a restaurant and I have never cash on me. It's really rare. And they said after I've ordered and after I've eaten, we only take cash. I was like, oh.
Well,
But luckily I was together with friends that had cash on them. But yeah, but
well,
that's really strange. It's a big contrast.
it's a bit better now. It's much better, but still, it's not like it should be for sure.
So I'm
Um,
local in San Francisco and in Vienna. And when I was in Tel Aviv, so we've been in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem. And it's interesting to be in a 100-year-old city and then in a 3,000-year-old city. It's kind of that already is a contrast.
yeah,
I felt like there's a lot of similarity between the West Coast or between Silicon Valley. A friend of mine says Silicon Valley is 120 square kilometers surrounded by reality.
it
That's a
is
Israel
exactly.
might be 120 square kilometers, so it's a little more, but the Tel Aviv, Jerusalem area might be that area surrounded by
Yeah.
that energy. I don't know how you'd like to call it. However, there are a lot of similarities. It's like this constant uncertainty. In Silicon Valley, it's the earthquakes. You have your wars. A lot of high migration. Most of the people who live in San Francisco weren't born there. A lot of people who were in Tel Aviv weren't born there or came back to their families. A
And
lot
Tel
of
Aviv is a 2
sorry,
square kilometer city,
say it again.
and Tel Aviv is a 52 square kilometer city. That you can basically meet everyone in 10 minutes walk. But there is no other technology center in Israel. I dare to say there's no Jerusalem and there's no Haifa or Beersheba. There's literally Tel Aviv and just a few in Jerusalem. So there's nothing, it's like a bubble, just like Silicon Valley is a bubble inside the US in a way. It's very, very much like here as
But
well.
it's also like you open your door and you see 20 things people shouldn't accept anymore. I feel like this is also a constant influx or fuel for being creative, how to improve situations.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
I would be interested
Yes.
to know a little bit more about the ecosystem works. So what they are doing, what process are there? Do they have special meetings, events, whatever?
Okay, so here's like a 2-minute nutshell about what's over here. First, I would start grassroots. And by grassroots, I mean that unlike many other places, mostly in Munich or other places in Europe that I know, where innovation and entrepreneurship is being grown at a university or academy, in here, the academy plays their part, but it's just one part of the puzzle. The main issue over here is startup communities. And by that, I mean that every startup vertical, like sport tech, like food tech, like health, medical, whatever, they have so many communities. It means that there's a hub, there's an acceleration program of few that having their free events and they're sharing the content and they are the place to go when you look for ABC. So you have about 300 or 400 different communities, and they have quite a lot of events. In Tel Aviv, for example, there are about 7 or 8 events, free events, every evening. The best people come speak at bars, they speak at acceleration programs or co-working spaces. So every night you can go and eat and drink for free, listening for someone who knows their shit. It means that the CEO of Israel Facebook over there, and the guy who came up with Mobileye, and CMO of Intel, and the latest startups and the marketing chief officers, they're just speaking out loud in front of everyone. Whoever wants to come, just come. This was before Corona times, so every evening you can find somewhere to listen to in Tel Aviv. And now in Corona times, it's the same, but digital. I mean, there are so many Zoom events. So the ability to spread the information and to find a topic or a speaker about the topic is very, very easy. And it's all for free. So,
sorry to interrupt, but who is paying for it when everything is free?
That's super good question, because nobody. This is a very interesting one, because the thing is that this is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, okay? The atmosphere here and what is acceptable over here and what is people expect not to pay to learn those lessons and to hear those people. So this is the culture. It means that if you are having this event in the bar, then it's off hours, like 5, 6, 7 p.m. before the evening starts. So the bar earns by people just coming, drink beer and hear someone before they actually open for the public. Other events are usually at Google for startups, where I see it, or in Microsoft or other big companies that want to host those events for free because they want people to come there and know their brand, etc., etc. So it's an economic of free, which is very problematic in a way. But I guess some people earn in a different coin. It's a very stupid argument, perhaps. It's not a very valuable business model, but because it's so fundamental in this ecosystem over here that you give a lot for free because you want to help others make their own companies, build great companies. So you can find competitors teaming up together. Ernst & Young and BDO and KPMG could be in the same place talking about whatever. And Microsoft and Google can be in the same place talking about whatever. And startups from the same domain sometimes cooperate in order to be on stage. So it's a very Israeli type of thing that you find competitors trying to help each other while they compete for attention and for money. And so it's a very unique, I guess, Israeli thing that you can find over here. And this is the main part that I think it's one of the main engines of the Israeli ecosystem over here. There are so many players and you can find them very easily and don't need to pay. And you are getting yourself into the momentum of hearing great content. Now, not all speakers are good, but some of them are really good and you can easily look at their bio. So the proximity of this small town of Tel Aviv and so many second timers, so many founders, so many investors, so many R&D centers, so many startups, then it creates a huge list of events, and it's just an engine that carries the ecosystem. The other players are co-working spaces. We have about 150 co-working spaces in Israel. Um, many acceleration programs for every small thing, for every small vertical. There's quite a few acceleration programs that are mostly not in a university. They are not controlled by university. This becomes more and more of a problem, because if you're talking about the business model, an acceleration program is one of the most problematic models ever. In order to have an acceleration program is about a few hundreds of dollars, a few hundreds of thousands of dollars to run an edition on acceleration programs. And therefore, most of the good acceleration programs are run by corporates and big companies, because you cannot just afford it. So basically, there's an address to every question you may have, and every consulting you wanna consult with someone, there's always an address, and it's usually 1 or 2 phone calls away. Just like Nikki sent me this message this morning, say, hey, are you available? I said, sure. Enough. If I wasn't available, I will give him another contact or 2, and that's it. This is how it works over here. The circles are very quick. The pace is very intensive, and the way you can achieve progress as an entrepreneur is very fast. There's no waiting 3 weeks to get an email back. You should receive an email by 2 hours or 3 hours. This is the main tempo of things over here. We're always in a rush. It has its downfalls, but also big strong points. And this is a big advantage, or a big different way of how to do business in the startup world. It has to be quick, intensive, and it's about networking. One last thing. So Nick, you told me that there are people here from different locations, and every day you're traveling to a different location.
Yes.
Connectivity is one of the key ingredients in building a great tech ecosystem. You can look at Startup Genome. It's a San Francisco research, whatever, I don't really remember. In their research, you can see how your city is connected to other cities. And because of those exits and startup getting acquired, then founders is going across the ocean, and then they come back, they have more knowledge, they teach the others, and you find more connections. So Tel Aviv is very well connected, and this also helps. It's a huge advantage when you're building an ecosystem. You need to be connected to knowledge, to people, to different verticals, to venture capitals, to multinationals, to university. It has to be somehow interlinked. So it wasn't in a nutshell, but this is basically how things works. It's a free economy. It's not even a freemium model, it's a free model. So take the knowledge, because knowledge is free. And if you look at Y Combinator, the #1 acceleration program in the world, the classes are free. Just go on YouTube and see the content and that they learn. It's all free. It doesn't matter. The content doesn't matter. It's about how you execute. It's about how you understand business and how far can you go before you hit the ground and there's no money in the bank. So if you look at life, entrepreneurial life, under this set of glasses, then knowledge doesn't really matter, and you shouldn't charge for it. I mean, it's like a very, it may be exaggerated argument, but you get the picture. It's just, take it, just learn for everybody. If you want to make a startup, just show us your bets at what you do, and the floor is yours. It's
Erez,
not about...
As we're approaching the end of our time window that we have together, I would like to shift gears also of my own personal curiosity. You said pitch in 2020. So how's that all about? when you say pitch 2020, I feel like it implies that there is some change, how pitches are different to pitch 2019.
Yeah, well, I always, when I give these pitching sessions, I have this asterisk and saying, look, guys, this is my subjective opinion based on quite a lot of acceleration programs, and partly by being a designer, and partly by being an entrepreneur pitched to other investors. I believe that, you know, we are not in our 20s over here in this room, okay? So, in the time that YouTube pitched, or Facebook pitched their startup, or Airbnb even, there's a very different way they pitch than what it is inquired today. What I see today is that there's so much competition. It's a super competitive world, and startup in Tel Aviv competes head to head from someone from India, Brazil, Silicon Valley, and London. That means that the rules have changed. You should see it. You should show very solid business aspirations, not now, but aspirations, and show us that basically the way you want to get there, how you're going to get there, and why you think you can do that. Now, it basically means that you have to be a professional now. I think more than ever. Everybody competes for the money. It means that every slide on your 10 to 15 slides have to be very accurate and have to be very strong, and has to show the passion you feel for the product and your understanding of the market. I know everybody in here in this room knows about those categories and know about those scales, right? You always look for those business model and strategy. We all do that. But today, I think it's even more important. It's not about the colors and the sizes of the fonts. It's also, but you should be a pro about your whole approach for getting attention. It's not about buzzwords. Nobody cares about buzzwords. We care about those very few diamonds that you have in the startup. And I think it's more complex right now because, again, there's so much competition. And sometimes entrepreneurs, and I see quite a lot, I see about 300-400 different entrepreneurs a year because I'm judging panels on other places like that. I think the vast majority of the very early stage entrepreneurs are falling into the same pitfalls that they teach them on YouTube or all kind of places. It's like, hey, I have this amazing, beautiful slide deck, and show us like you're an actor on stage, and that's completely wrong. I mean, people don't bring themselves, they don't bring their passion, they forget to say why they are here and why they believe that over the next 7, 8, or 9 years, they're going to run the company, because this is the average time that you can sell your company. So little less buzzwords, more very constructive way to show a business case. It's not about storytelling. I hate storytelling. Believe me, I don't like this word. I understand people love to hear nice words. I'm not into it, and it doesn't really work. Saying innovative 20 times doesn't make it innovative. So the essence stays. And pitching 2020, it's about attention grabbing. It's about how to tell your story right. It's about why you are the best team to do that, or a qualified team to do that, and why the business case makes sense. And please have a very decent, at least decent, research of the market you're tapping into. Why is it a market? Why is it big? Why is it trending? And who's in there? I mean, who are the competitive landscape? Who's the competitive landscape? So it's a very boring job. But as most of us entrepreneurs and innovators and guys who write patents, we know that entrepreneurship is quite boring, right? It's just like nuts and bolts. But the excitement, the small excitement we have, is that something actually works. It is the same with pitching. It's not about the flares. It's about this hard work you invest, building a story that makes sense. Many entrepreneurs fall over there, but well, you have to fall in order to get up. So that's in a nutshell. I mean, I give a 3-hour workshop on that, but that's basically how I see things. Because at least here in Israel, it's very different.
Very interesting. I like this. I mean, I like provocative ideas, and I feel like the headline, the end of storytelling.
Yeah. And it's important that I understand that I don't throw it out of the window, but it's not the focus. Sometimes people want to hire me for storytelling. I hang up at the same second. I mean,
sometimes I just feel like when I hear startup pitches that they have actually an idea and then they back engineer that idea to a story, and that always feels awkward.
yeah, or they are very developed. They are 8200 whatever, and just talk about the technology, which is nice, but it's just one part of the puzzle. It's a weakest link challenge. Every slide should be focused on the main issue it should provide. And everything is together is a coherent story. It's a coherent story of your company. It will change, it will pivot 25 times. But this is what you have according to now. So show us why it makes sense. And this is so simple, right? It sounds so simple, but people fall over and over.
So when I do speaker coaching, one of the first things that I spend a lot of time with is the question, who am I talking to? And most of the time VCs, by the personality of a VC, are people who feel physical pain if you talk too much. They know by word 3 how your sentence will finish. And then it's just out of politeness that they stay in the conversation, but they already want to leave the conversation as soon as possible.
I dare to say that all entrepreneurs I meet, 95% don't prepare themselves. They don't know who's in the audience, and they don't know what is the target of the pitch, which it should be usually about the first meeting. And when you skip that, so you shouldn't be surprised that nobody cares. And even more provocative than that, I'm saying that if there are 100 people in the crowd right now, and only one is interesting to you, talk to this one. I don't care about the 99. If you're building a medical device and you're trying to lower your pitch so everybody will understand, I think it's a huge mistake. Because the 99 people in the crowd don't care about the medical device, but this one is a medical device investor. So talk to him or her, and that's it. Because this is your target. Get a first meeting with this guy, and not with Erez Gavish, who knows nothing about medical devices. So people are pitching to pitch. Why do that? Why waste your time as an entrepreneur? It sounds quite provocative, but I guess you agree. You have a mission, and if you have a mission and nobody pays you to be an entrepreneur, they will pay you if you get an investment or you have some customers. So pitch for customers or investors, and don't pitch for Erez Gavish. Unless I'm a customer.
Nice.
How many times people told you that? I mean, to pitch like that. I don't recall someone told me to ignore 99% of the audience.
No, but it's, I think I totally agree. And well, I'm in the space of pitching, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And I mean, one of the things I keep wondering about is actually, I mean, Olga, she mentioned it one we met yesterday. She said she had made 200 pitches to find one. So the only thing I'm thinking of every day is actually how to reduce that list. I mean, how can you find that 1 out of 100 so you can kind of speed up the process? Because I mean, I've wasted a lot of my time pitching for the wrong persons. And it's kind of like a dead end road. It has nothing to do with, I mean, sometimes it has to do with my ability to pitch, of course. I'm very much aware about that and keep on improving. But a lot of times it's also about being in front of the wrong persons. So what is it that you're trying to accomplish, and who would be the right investor for that specific idea? So some kind of magic trick to find those investors would be highly appreciated for my sake. I think that's it's really hard.
It's really hard. It's a huge challenge, and I don't think there's a magic pill for that. You need to know the surface quite well. This is the problem with startups. They need to be good at so many stuff. Need to find out who is the best investors for them, and don't go to meet them until you met other investors that you can just try your pitch,
Practice.
have them as a sandbox, and then go for those. But again, it's tricky because it's a very small place. So you're taking a risk by embarrassing yourself in a way. But there's no way. You need to know very well the ecosystem, know the players, and it sounds like an impossible mission, but we all know that entrepreneurship is an impossible mission. And that's the real job of a CEO, as you well know. It's about 50%, it's about fundraising. This is why I don't want to build a startup. I don't want to go there. I'm not interested in investment because this is not the type of person I am anymore. And I think I would like to focus on the product and have some good values to people, even in the small, whatever, impact level. But what you said is correct. You need to find the needle in a haystack, and you have to somehow know who to turn to and when. That's a huge problem for everyone, I guess. But if you explore it, venture capital succeed in like 5% of their investments, then it's all a game of lottery. So I think in a way that everybody in this startup game are playing poker without a lot of chances to succeed. They're playing the lottery, not poker. And therefore it's about why you were here in this world and when you came, what's your mission in this world? And I guess in some magical way, stuff happens. All you have to do is do your best because there's no formula for that.
I completely agree. It's So what we're doing is actually we just sell some more. I just made some really awesome agreements this morning. So we'll see if we can actually manage to avoid investors and just sell more. So we have a really attractive product. So it has been quite easy for us to find distributors around the world. So I think it will work out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
hopefully.
All we have is this.
Yeah, that's right.
In a way.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this session. I respect your time. I don't want to take over capacity. Thank you for your flexibility and spontaneity. There's so many notes I've made. So when you watch my head being up and down, it's because I was making notes all over.
I thought you were sleeping. It's like
no, I was down to my book and up onto my second screen. I can only speak for myself, but I'm gonna hear soon from the others. I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
And if you need anything, so just give the guys my email, and if I can help some way, so I will try my best to do that. This is what we try to do over here.
I will definitely connect you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for the time, guys.
All the best. Shalom.
I like the library. I like the behind Evelyn. Very good backgrounds you have, guys. I hope you like my walking room. All right.
Sure.
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.